Ladies and gentlemen, today I want to show you something extraordinary, something most people will never experience in their entire lifetime. Not because it's impossible, not because it's complicated, but because it requires a decision, one that only the bold ever make. I call it the 15-day transformation blueprint. 15 days, that's all, not 15 years, not 15 months, 15 days to ignite a shift so powerful it will echo through the rest of your life. Most people believe transformation requires massive effort. But the truth, it only requires consistent effort. A tiny shift repeated daily will outperform a giant leap attempted once. If you wake up tomorrow 1% better, and the next day 1% better, you don't grow linearly, you grow exponentially. Change compounds. Discipline compounds. Success compounds. Here's the real secret. Your life will never rise higher than your identity. You don't do what you want, you do what you are. If you see yourself as a winner, you act like a winner. If you see yourself as someone who always struggles, you behave like someone who always struggles. In these 15 days, you're not just upgrading actions, you're upgrading your identity. Your thoughts are architects. Your beliefs are builders. Your actions are the workers completing the project of your life. If your mind is programmed for limitation, your life will perform at the level of that limitation. But if your mind is programmed for expansion, breakthroughs become inevitable. You don't need more time, you need more decision. The moment you say, I am responsible for where I am and where I'm going, your power returns to you. Transformation begins with a decision. Momentum begins with action. Breakthrough begins with belief. Discipline isn't punishment, it's protection. It guards your future from the sabotage of your old habits. Every time you keep your word to yourself, you build confidence. Every time you break your word to yourself, you break trust. Over the next 15 days, discipline becomes your superpower. When your purpose fuels you, your faith lifts you, and your strategy guides you. You multiply your progress. Your future doesn't grow by addition, it grows by multiplication. The person you're becoming over the next 15 days will produce results that last for years. So I challenge you, for the next 15 days, speak differently, think differently, act differently, believe differently. Because when you change what you do, you change what you have. But when you change who you are, you change what's possible. Your transformation starts the moment you decide. This time, it's my time. Most people underestimate what they can do in 15 days because they overestimate what they must do to change. They believe transformation requires a dramatic overhaul, a complete life reset. But the truth is far more empowering. Life changes when small decisions are repeated with unwavering consistency. It is not the size of the action that reshapes your future. It's the repetition of that action that compounds into breakthrough. Think about this. One small decision made once means almost nothing. But one small decision made daily becomes a force that cannot be ignored. If you improve by just 1% each day, you don't end the 15 days 15% better. You end them with momentum, confidence, and an identity that can no longer tolerate the old version of you. Small actions done consistently don't add up. They multiply. Every day you make a choice. You either reinforce your limitations or you reinforce your transformation. When you wake up and do the tiny thing you promised yourself, whether it's reading 10 minutes, exercising 5 minutes, writing 1 page, making 1 call, you are teaching your mind that you are a person who follows through. You are rewiring the belief systems that shape your destiny. That is the real power behind small actions. They don't just change your schedule, they change you. And here's the secret most people never discover. Consistency does more for you psychologically than it does physically. It builds belief, it builds trust, it builds certainty. It creates a new internal narrative that says, if I can do this today, I can do this again tomorrow. Suddenly the mountain doesn't intimidate you anymore because you've learned how to take steps without fear. You realize transformation isn't a moment, it's a rhythm. In 15 days, you won't become a different person because you made giant leaps, but because you made daily choices that aligned you with your highest future. Those choices compound, they stack, they create momentum. And momentum is the greatest gift you can give yourself on the path to a new life. In the next 15 days, You don't need perfection. You don't need massive effort. You only need the courage to take small steps consistently, because those steps will introduce you to a version of yourself you haven't met yet, but will be grateful you finally became. The greatest transformation in your life will never come from changing what you do. It will come from changing who you believe you are. Most people fail not because they lack potential, but because they are trying to achieve a new life with an old identity. You cannot step into abundance with a scarcity identity. You cannot step into confidence with a fearful identity. And you cannot step into greatness if deep down you still see yourself as someone who settles everything in your life. Your habits, your decisions, your relationships, your income flows out of one central truth. You behave in alignment with the person you believe yourself to be. If you see yourself as someone who always quits, you'll quit. If you see yourself as someone who never wins, you'll interpret every setback as confirmation. But when you decide to shift your identity, even before the evidence shows up, you create a new blueprint for your life. That is the moment things begin to change. Identity is not formed by looking at your past. It is formed by deciding your future. You must choose the version of yourself that already lives the life you desire. Ask yourself, how does that person think? How do they speak? How do they show up? What do they refuse to tolerate? The moment you begin acting from that identity, even before you fully believe it, something powerful happens. Your actions start training your mind to accept this new version of you as the truth. And once your mind believes it, your life will mirror it. Your identity is like the thermostat of your life. You can turn up the heat with temporary effort, but if your internal setting is still low, you will eventually return to the temperature you believe you deserve. When you shift the setting, when you raise your internal standard, your environment, your opportunities, and your results rise to match it. In these 15 days, you're not just changing behaviors. Behaviors are surface level. You're changing the story you tell about yourself. You're changing the rules you live by. You're changing the person you step into when you wake up every morning. This is not about faking it. It's about aligning with the version of you that has been waiting to emerge. You're not becoming someone new. You're becoming someone truer, someone stronger, someone more capable, someone who finally realizes the life you want isn't something you chase. It's something you grow into. When your identity shifts, everything else follows. Decisions become easier. Discipline feels natural. Confidence becomes your default setting. And the life you once thought was out of reach begins to respond to the new person you've chosen to become. If you want a new life, don't chase it. Become the person who would attract it. Mastering your mindset is the foundation of mastering your results, because everything you experience externally is a direct reflection of what you've accepted internally. Most people try to change their life by changing their circumstances, not realizing their circumstances are simply mirrors of their beliefs. If you want your results to rise, your mindset has to rise first. Your thoughts are not random, they are instructions. They tell your emotions how to feel, your body how to act, and your life how to respond. When you think small, you shrink your possibilities. When you think fearfully, you attract hesitation, delay, and confusion. When you think powerfully, you unlock clarity, confidence, and momentum. Every breakthrough you've ever admired in someone else started in their thinking long before it showed up in their life. Your mind is the steering wheel of your destiny, and you either direct it on purpose or drift by default. You must understand that your mindset is not just about positivity, it's about alignment. Your thoughts must agree with the future you want, not the limitations you've experienced. Your thoughts must agree with your potential, not your past. Your thoughts must agree with the identity you are stepping into, not the identity you've been trying to grow out of. When your mindset aligns with your purpose, your decisions become sharper, your actions become bolder, and your results become inevitable. People often say they want a better life, but their internal dialogue contradicts their desires. They speak success but think struggle. They envision growth but rehearse failure. Your mind cannot produce outcomes that your beliefs reject. If you want different results, you must first become the guardian of your mental environment. Monitor what you allow in. Become aware of the thoughts you repeat. Replace any belief that argues against your greatness, because those beliefs are the silent saboteurs of achievement. Once you master your mindset, something extraordinary happens. You stop being controlled by circumstances and start being guided by vision. You stop reacting to life and start designing it. You realize setbacks are not stop sign. They're signals for growth. You recognize that challenges aren't punishments, they're promotions in disguise. Suddenly you become the kind of person who cannot be shaken because you're no longer living from your fears, you're living from your purpose. Mastery begins the moment you take responsibility for what you think. Your results begin to shift the moment your mind shifts. When your mindset is strong, your actions become intentional, your faith becomes unshakable, and your results begin to reflect the power you've carried within you all along. Transform your mind, and your life has no choice but to rise with it. Nothing in your life changes until you change it, because transformation never begins with circumstances. It begins with intention. Most people are waiting for a perfect moment, a sign, a confirmation, or a better environment before they make a change. But life doesn't respond to waiting. It responds to deciding. The law of intentionality says that progress is never accidental. Growth is never coincidental. Breakthrough is never something you stumble into. It is something you step into by choice. You can want a better life. You can dream of a better life. You can pray for a better life. But nothing shifts until you intentionally choose new actions that align with a new direction. Desire creates possibility, but decision creates reality. And the moment you truly decide to change, everything around you begins to reorganize itself to support that decision. A decision is not an idea. It's not a wish. It's not a hope. A decision is a commitment to a new outcome backed by actions that refuse to negotiate. Most people never reach transformation because they live in the land of maybe. They say, maybe tomorrow, maybe when things calm down, maybe when I feel ready. But intentionality doesn't wait for readiness, it creates readiness. A decision, D with intention, is stronger than your excuses, stronger than your fears, and stronger than the limitations that once controlled your life. When you become intentional, you stop allowing life to happen to you. You begin leading your life instead of following your circumstances. Intentionality is the difference between drifting and directing, between hoping and building, between wishing for change and walking straight into it. The moment you decide to take ownership, real ownership, you regain your power. You stop blaming conditions, people, timing, or opportunities. You realize the pen has always been in your hand, and you can rewrite your story anytime you choose. And here's the truth: life honors intention. When you make a decision with clarity and conviction, opportunities appear that were invisible before. People show up who couldn't reach you before. Solutions reveal themselves that were blocked by indecision. When you decide, you initiate momentum. When you decide, you activate courage. When you decide, you unlock the strength that was sleeping inside your potential. In these next 15 days, your greatest transformation will not come from the tasks you complete. It will come from the intention behind them. When you move with purpose, every action counts. When you act with intention, every step carries power. And when you choose to change, the life you've been waiting for begins moving toward you. Nothing changes until you decide. But once you decide, everything can change. Discipline is one of the greatest forms of wealth you will ever possess, because it determines whether your potential becomes reality or remains a fantasy. Every promise you keep to yourself becomes a deposit in the bank of your confidence, and every promise you break becomes a withdrawal from your belief. Discipline isn't about punishment. It's about alignment. It's about aligning your AC. Shans with your intentions, your habits with your goals, and your behaviors with the future you say you desire. Most people don't fail because they set their goals too high. They fail because they set their discipline too low. They say one thing and do another. They make commitments but negotiate with their excuses. And every time you negotiate with yourself, you weaken your identity. You teach your mind that your word doesn't hold weight. But when you decide that your word is law in your own life, when you treat your commitments like contracts, you step into a level of power that most people never experience. Discipline is not simply doing hard things. It is doing the right things consistently. Even when your emotions don't cooperate, your feelings will not always support your future, but your discipline will. Feelings fluctuate, but discipline builds. Feelings change, but discipline compounds. Your future doesn't care how you feel. It responds to what you do. And when you do what you said you would do, regardless of the mood you're in, You elevate your self-respect to a level that makes quitting impossible. There is a wealth that money cannot buy. The wealth of knowing you can trust yourself. The wealth of knowing you are dependable. The wealth of knowing you are not led by excuses, but guided by purpose. When you have that kind of discipline, opportunities flow to you because success is attracted to consistency. Doors open because people trust those who are reliable. Breakthroughs happen because discipline positions you where luck cannot ignore you. Over the next 15 days, discipline becomes the engine of your transformation. Not perfection, discipline. Not intensity, discipline. Not doing everything, just doing what you said you would do. Whether the step is big or small doesn't matter. What matters is that you keep moving in the direction of your destiny. Every day you show up, even in a small way, you reinforce your identity as someone who follows through. And that identity is priceless. Discipline is self-respect in action. Discipline is self-love expressed as consistency. Discipline is the bridge between where you are and the life you know you were created to live. When you honor your word, you honor your future. When you do what you said you would do, you become unstoppable. Not because the path becomes easy, but because you become stronger than anything that stands in your way. Progress multiplies when your life is powered by purpose, strengthened by faith, and directed by strategic action. Purpose gives you a reason to wake up. Faith gives you the courage to move forward. Strategy gives you the map to get where you're going. When these three forces align, your results don't grow by addition, they grow by multiplication. You begin to operate at a level where effort produces outcomes far greater than what you invested, because the energy behind your actions becomes more powerful than the actions themselves. Purpose is your internal engine. Without it, you move slowly, hesitantly, inconsistently. But when you know why you're doing what you're doing, you tap into a deeper source of strength that doesn't tire easily. Purpose doesn't eliminate challenges, but it gives you the resilience to push through them. It reminds you that every step has meaning, every sacrifice has value, and every moment of discipline is constructing a future worth living. Faith is the ingredient that elevates your actions from human effort to divine acceleration. Faith allows you to act even when the evidence hasn't shown up yet. It empowers you to see the finish line before the race even begins. Faith transforms obstacles into opportunities because you learn to interpret setbacks not as signs to stop, but as signals to grow. When you move with faith, you walk with a confidence that doesn't come from what you see, it comes from what you believe. But purpose and faith alone won't create the life you desire. You must pair them with strategic action. Strategy turns intention into impact. Strategy turns dreams into direction. Strategy turns momentum into mastery. When you apply action with intention, when you stop moving randomly and start moving precisely, you shorten your learning curve, you increase your effectiveness, and you accelerate your progress. Strategy allows you to work smarter without compromising your commitment to working harder when necessary. When purpose fuels you, faith sustains you, and strategy guides you, something extraordinary happens. You step into exponential growth. You stop merely improving. You begin expanding. You stop gaining. You start multiplying. Opportunities that once seemed distant begin moving towards you because you're walking in alignment with who you were designed to be. Over the next 15 days, you'll notice that the more connected you become to your purpose, the more powerful your faith becomes. And the more powerful your faith becomes, the more effective your strategy becomes. These three forces working together ignite the kind of momentum that can change the trajectory of your life, not gradually, exponentially. You are no longer just taking steps forward. You are multiplying forward. You are advancing with clarity, conviction, and intentional precision. And that combination makes your transformation not only possible, but inevitable. As you stand at the edge of these next 15 days, remember this: your life is not transformed by chance, it is transformed by choice. Every breakthrough you desire is already within your reach, waiting for you to become the person who can receive it. You now know the power of small, consistent actions. You understand the necessity of shifting your identity. You've seen how mastering your mindset shapes your results, how intentionality unlocks your momentum, how discipline builds your inner wealth, and how purpose, faith, and strategy multiply your progress. But knowledge alone will not create your transformation. Decision will. Action will. Consistency will. The future doesn't belong to the most talented. It belongs to the most committed. It belongs to those who dare to believe that 15 days of focus can rewrite the story they've been living for years. It belongs to those who refuse to negotiate with their excuses and instead align with their destiny. So today, make the choice. Choose to think differently. Choose to act boldly. Choose to honor your word. Choose to step into the identity that matches the future you desire. Because when you change what you repeatedly do, you shape who you become. And when you change who you are, you unlock what you're capable of having. The next 15 days are not just a challenge. They are an invitation to rise, to grow, to evolve, to claim the life that has been waiting for you to step forward and seize it. Your transformation is not someday in the distance. Your transformation begins now. And the person you will become on the other side of these 15 days will thank you for the decision you make today. So take the first step and then take the next, because this time it truly is your time.